Daniel Reed wiped grease from his hands while crouching inside the ventilation shaft of Crossroads Station. The metal walls pressed close around him as he worked on replacing a burnt-out air filter. 20 meters below, thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds moved through the marketplace levels. But up here in the maintenance tunnels, everything stayed quiet except for the hum of air processors. He had been working on Crossroads for 2 years now. The station floated in deep space far from Earth, serving as a meeting point where different alien species came to trade and talk. Humans were still new here. Most aliens treated them with curiosity mixed with concern. They thought humans acted strange, took too many risks, smiled at the wrong times. Daniel's communicator buzzed against his belt. He pulled it out and saw his supervisor's face on the small screen. Bryn looked worried, which was normal for him. The tall alien had feathers instead of hair and large yellow eyes that blinked sideways. Daniel returned to the main hub immediately, Bryn said. His translator device made his chirping sounds into clear words. "We have a situation developing." "I'm almost done here," Daniel replied. "Just need another 10 minutes. No, now." The Vorash delegation has arrived early. Daniel felt his eyebrows rise. The Vorash were famous across the galaxy, though few beings ever saw them in person. They were massive predators, strong enough to tear through steel, fast enough to catch anything that ran. Most species were terrified of them. 3 months ago, station management announced the Vorash were sending representatives to discuss trade agreements. Everyone had been nervous ever since. "I thought they weren't coming until next week," Daniel said. Plans changed. They brought their young ones with them. The station commander has ordered all non-essential personnel to evacuate the lower levels as a safety precaution. Daniel started packing his tools. "Are the Vorash dangerous?" Bryn made a sound that the translator interpreted as anxious laughter. "Their cubs have killed trained warriors by accident during play. Adult Vorash can break through security doors. Yes, Daniel, they are extremely dangerous. Got it. I'll head up right away." The communicator went dark. Daniel finished gathering his equipment and started crawling back through the tunnel, toward the nearest exit. He had seen pictures of the Vorash in the station database. They looked like someone had mixed a bear with a lizard and made it twice as large. 6 powerful limbs covered in dark scales, with eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. Their homeworld had gravity 50% stronger than Earth's, which meant they were incredibly strong by human standards. He dropped down from the maintenance tunnel into an empty corridor. Emergency lights flashed yellow along the walls. That meant the evacuation was already happening. Daniel started jogging toward the lift that would take him to the upper levels where most humans lived and worked. Halfway there, his communicator buzzed again. This time it was Rodriguez from engineering. "Hey Daniel, we've got a problem. The environmental controls in Section 7 are failing. If we don't fix them in the next hour, the entire hydroponics bay will overheat and we'll lose 3 months of food production." Daniel stopped running. "Bryn just ordered me to evacuate." "I know, but everyone else is already gone from the lower levels. You're the only maintenance tech still down there. It's a simple fix, just need someone to reset the control panel manually. 15 minutes, tops." He looked up at the corridor ceiling, thinking. Section 7 was in the opposite direction from the lifts, but losing the hydroponics bay would be a real problem. The station grew most of its fresh food there. Without it, they would have to rely on expensive imported supplies. "All right," Daniel said. "I'll do it. But I'm working fast. You're a lifesaver. The control panel is in the maintenance room next to the main grow chamber." Daniel turned around and started running the other way. The corridors stayed empty. Everyone had taken the evacuation seriously. He passed through 3 security checkpoints that stood open and unmanned. The yellow emergency lights gave everything a strange color, making the shadows look darker than usual. Section 7 was quiet when he arrived. He could hear the hum of grow lights and water pumps through the walls. The air smelled like earth and plants, which always reminded him of home. He had grown up on a farm in Oregon, surrounded by forests and animals. Space stations were interesting, but sometimes he missed the smell of real dirt. The maintenance room door slid open when he approached. Inside, various pipes and control systems covered the walls. The environmental control panel blinked with red warning lights. Daniel set down his tool bag and started running diagnostics. The problem was simple, just like Rodriguez said. A circuit had overheated and shut down the cooling system. He pulled out the burnt component and installed a replacement from his bag. While he worked, he heard something. A scratching sound, very faint, coming from the ventilation shaft above him. He paused and listened carefully. There it was again. Something moving through the ductwork. Probably just a cleaning drone, he thought. The station used small robots to keep the air ducts clear, but the sound seemed too heavy for a drone. And it moved in an odd pattern, stopping and starting like something being cautious. Daniel finished installing the replacement circuit and powered the system back on. The control panel lights changed from red to green. The cooling system hummed back to life. He packed his tools and stood up, ready to leave. The scratching sound came again, louder this time. Much closer. Something was definitely in the ventilation shaft. Something big. Daniel looked up at the vent cover just as a pair of gleaming eyes appeared in the darkness behind the metal grating. They reflected the light from the control panel, glowing like yellow coins. Whatever was up there, it was watching him. The yellow eyes in the ventilation shaft didn't blink. Daniel stood completely still, tool bag in one hand, watching the darkness behind the grating. His heart rate increased, but he kept his breathing steady. Growing up on a farm had taught him that panicking around animals always made things worse. Something large shifted in the ductwork. The metal groaned slightly under its weight. Daniel estimated whatever was up there weighed at least 200 kilograms, maybe more. Too big to be a cleaning drone or any normal station equipment. He thought about the Vorash cubs that Bryn had mentioned. The ones dangerous enough to make the entire station evacuate its lower levels. Well, Daniel said quietly, this is either really interesting or really bad. The eyes moved. A low sound came from the shaft, something between a growl and a curious chirp. The vent cover rattled as whatever was behind it pressed against the metal. Daniel took a slow step backward, keeping his eyes on the grating. He knew he should run. His brain was actively suggesting it, actually. But another part of him, the part that had spent childhood summers tracking deer through the woods and helping injured foxes, wanted to know what he was looking at. The vent cover burst outward with a screech of tearing metal. A massive shape dropped from the ceiling and landed on the floor between Daniel and the door. The creature was the size of a grown bear, covered in dark blue scales that seemed to absorb the light. 6 limbs ended in claws that left scratches on the floor tiles. Its head was broad and flat with those yellow eyes set forward like a predator's. A Vorash cub. Had to be. Nothing else on the station looked like this. The cub tilted its head, studying Daniel. Its nostrils flared, taking in his scent. Daniel could see its muscles tensing, coiling up like springs. He had seen this behavior before in mountain lions back on Earth right before they pounced. Easy there, Daniel said softly. You're lost, aren't you? Probably scared. New place, strange smells, separated from your family. The cub made that chirping sound again. It took a step forward. Daniel could see its body language more clearly now. The way its scales rippled along its back, how its tail swept low and tense. This wasn't hunting behavior. This was fear aggression. The cub felt cornered and was preparing to defend itself. Daniel started to lower himself slowly into a crouch, making himself smaller, less threatening. But the movement triggered something in the cub. It lunged forward with incredible speed, covering the distance between them in less than a second. Most beings would have died right there. The cub's claws were sharp enough to cut through most materials. Its jaw strength could crush bone, but Daniel's reflexes, trained by years of working with large animals, kicked in automatically. He twisted to the side as the cub reached him, letting its momentum carry it past. At the same time, he grabbed the loose skin behind its front shoulders, the way he might grab a large dog. The cub's weight pulled him forward, and they both tumbled across the floor in a tangle of limbs. They rolled twice before stopping against the wall. The cub ended up on its back with Daniel somehow holding it down. It thrashed and made loud screeching noises. Its claws scraped against his maintenance suit, leaving tears in the tough fabric but not quite reaching skin. Daniel started laughing. He couldn't help it. The situation was so absurd. Here he was, wrestling with an alien predator cub that probably weighed more than he did, and all he could think about was the time his uncle's bull had charged him in the barn, and he'd had to grab its horns and redirect it into a hay pile. You're just a big puppy, aren't you? Daniel said, still grinning. All bark and no bite. Well, lots of bite, actually, but you don't really want to hurt me. The cub stopped thrashing for a moment, confused by Daniel's tone. Prey wasn't supposed to laugh. Prey was supposed to run and scream. Daniel used the pause to shift his position. He kept one hand on the cub's shoulder, but moved his other hand to scratch behind the bony ridge where its head met its neck. He had noticed how the cub kept trying to scratch that spot with its back leg during the wrestling match. The cub's eyes widened. It made a completely different sound, something like a purr mixed with a rumble. Its body relaxed slightly. "There we go," Daniel said, still scratching. "That's the spot, isn't it?" Somewhere far above them, alarms were probably screaming. Security cameras had definitely caught everything. People were probably panicking, thinking they were about to watch a maintenance technician get torn apart. But Daniel wasn't thinking about any of that. He was focused entirely on the creature in front of him, on reading its body language, understanding what it needed, finding ways to make it feel safe instead of threatened. The cub's purring got louder. It tried to roll over, which Daniel allowed. Now it was on its stomach, looking up at him with those yellow eyes. The aggression had completely drained away, replaced by curiosity. Daniel pulled his tool bag closer with one foot. He dug through it until he found a plasma torch, one of the smaller handheld ones used for precision welding. He turned it off and tossed it gently across the floor. The cub's eyes tracked the movement instantly. Its hunting instincts activated, but in a playful way now. It bounded after the torch, pounced on it with both front paws, then looked back at Daniel as if asking what came next. "You want to play fetch?" Daniel asked, laughing again. "Okay, we can do that." He walked over and picked up the torch. The cub's body tensed with excitement. Daniel tossed it again in a different direction this time. The cub chased it with obvious joy, its powerful body moving with grace despite its size. They played for several minutes. The cub brought the torch back to Daniel each time, dropping it at his feet and looking up expectantly. Its tail wagged back and forth. Then Daniel heard heavy footsteps in the corridor outside, multiple sets of them moving fast. The cub heard them too. Its ears flattened against its head and it pressed close to Daniel's leg. "It's okay," Daniel said quietly. "That's probably your parents." The door to the maintenance room exploded inward. 2 adult Vorash filled the doorway, each one massive enough to make the cub look small. Their eyes found Daniel immediately, standing there with their missing offspring pressed against him. Daniel smiled and raised one hand slowly in greeting. "Hi there. I think this little one got lost." In the station command center, 3 levels above the maintenance room, Bryn watched the security monitors with growing horror. His feathers stood on end, making him look twice his normal size. Around him, other station personnel stared at the screens in stunned silence. "He's going to die," someone whispered. "We're about to watch him die." Commander Lee, a human woman who ran the station's security operations, leaned closer to the main display. Her face showed no emotion, but her knuckles were white from gripping the edge of the console. "Daniel, what are you doing?" she muttered under her breath. On the screen, Daniel Reed wrestled with a Vorash cub, except wrestling wasn't quite the right word. He was playing with it. The cub's claws had torn his suit in several places. Any one of those strikes could have disemboweled him if they'd connected properly. But Daniel just kept laughing and scratching the creature behind its head. Dr. Halvik pushed his way to the front of the crowd. The reptilian scientist had spent 40 years studying interspecies behavior. He'd written 12 books on the subject. Right now, every single theory in those books was being challenged by what he saw on the monitor. "This is impossible," Halvik said. His translator made his hissing voice sound academic and precise. "The human should be triggering the cub's kill instinct. Fear produces specific chemical signals that predators can detect. The cub should smell his terror and respond with increased aggression." "Maybe he's not afraid," Commander Lee said. "That's even worse. Lack of appropriate fear response indicates mental deficiency or severe neurological damage." On screen, Daniel threw something across the room. The cub chased after it with obvious delight. "Is he playing fetch?" Bryn asked weakly. "With a Vorash cub? Is he playing fetch?" One of the station's civilian observers, a trader named Polk, who belonged to a species that looked like walking mushrooms, spoke up. "I've heard humans do this. On their homeworld. They take predators and make them into pets." "Pets?" Halvik's head swiveled toward Polk. "What are pets?" "Companion animals. Humans keep them in their homes. Feed them. Care for them. I thought it was just rumors, but apparently it's true." Commander Lee nodded. "It's true. Before I came to space, I had 3 dogs and 2 cats, all descended from predator species. Dogs from wolves, cats from wild hunters. The command center fell silent as everyone processed this information. It explained so much about human behavior that had previously seemed insane. Their tendency to approach dangerous situations with curiosity instead of caution. The way they smiled at things that should terrify them. Their bizarre habit of trying to touch everything they encountered. Humans had evolved alongside predators and somehow decided to befriend them instead of fleeing from them. Alert, the computer announced suddenly. Adult Vorash life signs detected in Section 7. They're moving toward the maintenance room. On the monitors, two massive shapes appeared in the corridor outside where Daniel stood with the cub. The adult Vorash moved with deadly purpose, each one massed over 500 kilograms. Their claws left deep gouges in the floor with every step. Open a communication channel to that room, Commander Lee ordered. Now. Channel open, but there's a 3-second delay in the system. On screen, the door to the maintenance room exploded inward. The adult Vorash filled the doorway. They saw Daniel immediately, standing beside their cub. Commander Lee grabbed the microphone. Daniel, don't move. Stay very still. We're going to... But Daniel was already moving. He smiled at the adult Vorash and raised one hand in a slow wave. The cub, instead of running to its parents, pressed closer against Daniel's leg. Every being in the command center expected violence. The adult Vorash would see a strange creature with their offspring and respond with lethal force. It was natural parental instinct. The same instinct existed across hundreds of species, but the female Vorash, the larger of the two adults, tilted her head in a gesture that looked remarkably similar to what the cub had done earlier. She took one step into the room, moving carefully. Her eyes tracked from Daniel to the cub and back again. The male Vorash made a deep rumbling sound. His translator, a device attached to a harness around his massive chest, converted it to words. You are the human who has our child? Yes, sir, Daniel replied. His voice stayed calm and friendly. I was working down here when your little one came through the ventilation system. I think they got separated from your group and ended up lost. Our little one attacked you, the female said. Her translator gave her voice a formal tone. We saw through the station cameras. You should be injured. Dead. Yet you smile. Daniel looked down at the cub, who looked back up at him with trusting yellow eyes. They weren't really attacking, just scared. When animals feel cornered, they defend themselves. I grew up around large animals. Cattle, horses, wild predators. You learn to read their body language, understand what they're actually feeling instead of just reacting to teeth and claws. The male Vorash moved closer. He lowered his head until his face was level with Daniel's. At this distance, he could easily bite the human in half. You were not afraid? Oh, I was definitely concerned, Daniel said, still smiling. But fear doesn't help in situations like this. Fear makes you do stupid things. Better to stay calm and work with what's happening. The female made a sound that didn't translate. She moved to her cub and gently nuzzled its head. The cub purred and rubbed against her. Then it looked back at Daniel and made a chirping noise. Our child likes you, she said. This is unusual. Vorash cubs normally show affection only to family members. In the command center, Dr. Halvik was frantically taking notes. This is unprecedented. The human has formed a social bond with the cub in less than 15 minutes. This challenges everything we understand about cross-species interaction. Maybe we've been understanding it wrong, Commander Lee said quietly. On screen, the male Vorash straightened to his full height. Human Daniel Reed. You have returned our child safely when you could have used them as hostage or killed them while they were vulnerable. You have shown our family honor. We are in your debt. No debt necessary, Daniel said. Just glad everyone's okay. The female bent down and picked up her cub, cradling the massive creature in her arms like it weighed nothing. The cub chirped again and reached one paw toward Daniel. We will remember this, the male said. The Vorash do not forget kindness. He paused, then added something that made everyone in the command center sit up straighter. We wish to learn your methods. How does a human calm a frightened predator? This is valuable knowledge, Daniel shrugged. It's not really a method. You just have to pay attention. Listen to what they're trying to tell you. Most creatures don't want to fight. They just want to feel safe. The Vorash parents looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then the female spoke again. This perspective is foreign to us. On our world, strength determines survival. But perhaps there is wisdom in your approach. They turned to leave, the cub still looking back at Daniel. At the doorway, the male paused. The station commander offered us quarters in the diplomatic section. We would prefer to stay near you, human. We have much to discuss. Then they were gone, their heavy footsteps fading down the corridor. News traveled fast through Crossroads Station. Within hours, every being on board had heard about the human maintenance worker who wrestled with a Vorash cub and lived to tell about it. The story grew with each retelling. Some versions had Daniel fighting off 3 cubs at once. Others claimed he'd tamed the entire Vorash family with his bare hands. Daniel himself was trying to ignore all the attention. He sat in the station's small cafeteria, eating a sandwich and reading technical manuals on his data pad. Every few minutes, someone would walk past and stare at him. A few brave souls asked for pictures. Most just whispered and pointed. Commander Lee found him there an hour after the incident. She pulled up a chair and sat down without asking permission. Her expression was difficult to read. "You caused quite a situation down there," she said. Daniel looked up from his manual. "I was just trying to get the hydroponics cooling system back online." The cub appeared on its own. "I'm not criticizing. Actually, I'm impressed. And confused. Mostly confused." She leaned back in her chair. "The Vorash delegation has made a formal request through diplomatic channels. They want you specifically assigned as their liaison during their stay on the station." "What's a liaison?" "Someone who helps them understand our culture and helps us understand theirs. Usually it's a trained diplomat with years of experience. But they asked for you by name." Daniel set down his sandwich. "Why me?" "Because you did something none of our trained diplomats would have attempted. You connected with their cub on an instinctual level. They're fascinated by it." Commander Lee pulled out her own data pad and showed him a message. "This is from Ambassador Krell, head of the Vorash delegation. I'll read you the important part. This human demonstrates understanding of predator psychology that surpasses our own specialists. We request opportunity to learn his techniques and share knowledge in return." "I don't have techniques," Daniel said. "I just treated the cub like any other scared animal." That's exactly what interests them. Most species in this galaxy evolved as prey animals or environmental survivors. Humanity is unique. We evolved alongside multiple apex predators, and instead of developing better ways to run away, we developed ways to live alongside them, sometimes even befriend them. Daniel thought about his childhood, the farm dogs that helped herd cattle, the barn cat that kept mice away, even the coyotes that would sometimes watch him from the tree line, curious but not hostile. "I guess I never thought about it being unusual." "It's extremely unusual. Dr. Halvik has been studying interspecies behavior for 40 years and he's never seen anything like what you did today." Commander Lee leaned forward. "I'm not ordering you to accept this liaison position. It's completely voluntary, but I think you should consider it. The Vorash are one of the most powerful species in this region of space. Having them as allies could benefit all of humanity." Daniel looked around the cafeteria. Several aliens quickly looked away when they met his eyes. "What would I have to do?" "Spend time with the Vorash delegation. Answer their questions. Maybe demonstrate some of your animal handling skills. They've also offered to teach you about their culture in exchange." "How long would this last?" "Their delegation is scheduled to stay for 2 weeks. After that, if things go well, you might be asked to travel to their homeworld as an official ambassador." The idea of going to an alien world, especially one filled with creatures like the Vorash, should have been terrifying. Instead, Daniel felt a flutter of excitement in his chest. "Can I think about it?" "Take your time, but not too much time. They're expecting an answer by tomorrow morning." Commander Lee stood up to leave, then paused. "One more thing. The incident earlier has stirred up some controversy. Some species are worried about humans having too much influence. They see what you did as proof that humans are unpredictable and dangerous." "Dangerous? I was playing with a lost cub. You were playing with a creature that most species consider a walking nightmare. From their perspective, that makes you either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Either way, it makes them nervous." After Commander Lee left, Daniel sat alone with his thoughts. His communicator buzzed constantly with messages from other humans on the station, asking questions, offering congratulations, requesting interviews. He ignored most of them. Instead, he thought about the Vorash cub, the way its scales had felt under his hands, cool and smooth, how its body language had shifted from aggressive to playful once it realized he wasn't a threat, the intelligence in those yellow eyes. His communicator buzzed again. This time the message was from Dr. Halvik, asking if Daniel would be willing to answer some questions for his research. Daniel almost ignored it like the others, but something made him reconsider. He sent back a short reply agreeing to meet. They met in one of the station's observation rooms, a small space with large windows that looked out at the stars. Dr. Halvik was waiting when Daniel arrived, his reptilian features showing clear excitement. "Thank you for coming," Halvik said. "I have been studying the security footage from your encounter. I must ask, have you received formal training in xenobiology or interspecies communication?" "No," Daniel said. "I grew up on a farm. Worked with animals my whole life. That's about it. Fascinating. What you did today should not have worked. The Vorash cub's biology produces specific responses to threat stimuli. You should have triggered a full aggressive response leading to lethal force. Maybe I didn't seem like a threat. But you were grappling with the creature. Physical contact should have enhanced the threat response." Daniel tried to explain. "Animals understand intent. It's not just about what you do, it's about why you do it. When I grabbed the cub, I wasn't trying to hurt it. I was trying to redirect its energy, keep it from hurting itself or me. Animals can sense that difference." Halvik made notes on his data pad. "This concept of intent sensing is not documented in any of our studies. How do animals perceive intent? Body language mostly. Tone of voice. Chemical signals maybe. I'm not a scientist, I just know it works. A dog can tell the difference between someone who wants to pet it and someone who wants to hurt it, even if both people are reaching out the same way. Dogs are the domesticated predators humans keep as pets, correct?" "Yeah, descended from wolves. We've been living with them for thousands of years." Halvik's eyes widened. "Thousands of years? You have been coexisting with apex predators for that long?" "Longer, probably. Some scientists think humans and wolves started working together over 15,000 years ago." The reptilian scientist sat back, processing this information. "This explains so much about human behavior. Your species didn't just survive alongside predators. You integrated them into your society, made them partners." "Made them family," Daniel corrected. "Dogs aren't just partners. They're friends, companions. Same with cats and horses and all the other animals we live with." Halvik wrote furiously on his data pad. Finally, he looked up. "I must ask a favor. Would you be willing to conduct a demonstration? Show other species these techniques you describe? If humans can teach us to better understand predator behavior, it could save countless lives." Daniel thought about the Vorash cub's yellow eyes, about the way it had trusted him after just a few minutes. "I'll do the liaison thing with the Vorash. If that goes well, maybe we can talk about demonstrations." 3 days into his liaison work with the Vorash delegation, Daniel stood in the diplomatic quarters watching the Vorash family interact. The cub, whose name translated roughly to Swift, played with what looked like a metal puzzle box. The parents observed Daniel with constant attention, asking questions about human behavior and animal domestication. "On your Earth," the male Vorash said. His name was Tor. "You say humans keep predators in their homes. These predators do not hunt the humans?" "Not usually," Daniel explained. "We feed them so they don't need to hunt us. And over thousands of years we've bred them to be friendly. They've evolved to see humans as family." The female named Shira made a thoughtful sound. "This concept is difficult for us. On our world, predators compete. There is no cooperation between species." "Maybe that's something you could try," Daniel suggested. "Find an animal on your world that might benefit from working with Vorash." "Start small," Swift chirped from across the room. The cub had solved the puzzle box and was looking at Daniel expectantly. This had become a pattern. Every time Swift completed a task, he looked to Daniel for approval before going to his parents. Daniel smiled and gave the cub a thumbs up. Swift's tail wagged and he bounded over, dropping the puzzle box at Daniel's feet. The humans on the station had started calling Swift the puppy because of his behavior around Daniel. "Your influence on our child concerns some members of our delegation," Tor said carefully. "Swift should bond primarily with Vorash, not humans." "I'm not trying to replace you," Daniel said quickly. "I'm just playing with him. If it's a problem, I can stop." Shira made a negative gesture. "No. We asked you here specifically because of your connection with Swift. We are simply noting the observation. On our world, such cross-species bonding does not occur." A chime sounded at the door. Commander Lee's voice came through the intercom. "Daniel, can you come to the command center? We have a situation." Daniel excused himself and headed up to the command center. When he arrived, he found it more crowded than usual. Multiple species representatives stood around the main display, arguing in several languages at once. Commander Lee saw him and waved him over. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. "Someone sabotaged the habitat seals in Section 7, Commander Lee said quietly, "the area where you found Swift 3 days ago. They also disabled the environmental controls in the xenobiology lab. 2 creatures escaped. Dangerous ones." On the main display, security footage showed a large 6-legged creature with armored plates covering its body. It looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a scorpion. In another window, a second creature that resembled a massive snake with wings moved through a corridor. "Those are from the research collection," Dr. Halvik said, pushing through the crowd. "The armored one is a Kreth, apex predator from a high-gravity world. The flying one is a serpent, ambush hunter. Both are extremely lethal. Evacuate the affected sections," Commander Lee ordered. "Get everyone to safety." "Already in progress," Bryn reported from his station. "But we have a problem." A tour group of civilian children was visiting the lower observation deck. "They're trapped in that section with the Kreth between them and the exits." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Kreth would find the children, and when it did, people would die. "I'll go," Daniel said. Every head turned toward him. "Absolutely not," Commander Lee said. "You're not trained for this. Neither is anyone else here. You said it yourself. Most species evolved as prey. They'll run from that thing and trigger its hunting instinct. I grew up around dangerous animals. I know how to handle them." "You know how to handle Earth animals," Dr. Halvik objected. "This is an alien creature with completely different biology and behavior patterns." "Predators are predators," Daniel said. "They all follow similar patterns. Territory, food, threat assessment. Give me a chance," Commander Lee studied him for a long moment. "If you die down there, the Vorash are going to blame us. They'll consider it a diplomatic incident. Then I won't die." Before Commander Lee could respond, the door to the command center opened. Tor and Shira entered, with Swift following close behind. The Vorash had obviously heard about the situation through their own channels. "We will accompany the human," Tor announced. "If he goes into danger, we go with him." "This isn't your problem," Commander Lee said. "Daniel Reed risked himself for our child," Shira responded. "Honor demands we offer aid when he faces risk. Also, we wish to observe his methods with dangerous creatures." Commander Lee looked like she wanted to argue, but Daniel could see her calculating the odds. 2 adult Vorash and a human versus a Kreth. Better than sending in security teams that would just panic and die. "Fine," she said finally. "But Daniel, you're in charge. The Vorash follow your lead." "Understood?" Daniel nodded. He'd never felt less ready for anything in his life. But those children needed help, and he was the only one willing to try. They geared up quickly. Daniel grabbed some equipment from the maintenance lockers. A plasma torch, some industrial restraints, a cattle prod he'd modified for station use. The Vorash needed no equipment. They were weapons themselves. As they headed down to the lower levels, Swift kept pace beside Daniel. The cub seemed to sense the seriousness of the situation and stayed quiet. "You should have left him with someone," Daniel said to Shira. "Vorash cubs learn by observation," she replied. "This is an important lesson." They reached Section 7. Through the windows in the corridor, Daniel could see the Kreth in the distance. It was bigger than he'd expected, nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Its armored plates looked thick enough to stop bullets. The creature was sniffing around the sealed door that held the children. "It knows they're in there," Daniel said quietly. "That door won't hold for long. What is your plan?" Tor asked. Daniel watched the Kreth's behavior. The way it moved, heavy and deliberate. The way its head swung back and forth, testing the air. It's hunting. But it's also confused. This isn't its natural environment. All these metal walls and strange smells. So we use that. Make it more confused. Give it something else to focus on besides those kids. Daniel took a deep breath. "I'm going to get its attention. When it charges me, you 2 hit it from the sides. Not to kill it, just to knock it off balance. We need to herd it away from that door." "This plan is insane," Tor said. But there was respect in his voice. "Yeah," Daniel agreed. "Probably. But it's what we've got." He stepped out into the corridor and started walking toward the Kreth, making no attempt to hide. The creature's head snapped up immediately. Its eyes, small and black, focused on Daniel. The Kreth made a sound like grinding rocks and began moving toward him. The Kreth charged faster than Daniel expected. 1 second it was 10 meters away, the next it was almost on top of him. He dove to the side at the last moment, rolling across the floor as the creature's bulk crashed past. The impact of its feet shook the corridor. Tor and Shira hit the Kreth from both sides exactly as planned. Their combined weight and strength knocked the creature sideways into the wall. It roared, a sound that hurt Daniel's ears even through his helmet. The armor plates along its back raised up, revealing vulnerable skin underneath. "It's angry now," Shira called out. "Daniel, move." Daniel was already running, heading away from the sealed door and the children behind it. The Kreth recovered quickly and turned to follow. Good. That was what he wanted. "Keep it focused on him. Keep it moving away from the civilians." Swift suddenly darted past Daniel, chirping loudly. The cub ran directly at the Kreth. "Swift, no," Daniel shouted, but the young Vorash ignored him. Swift ducked under the Kreth's legs and snapped at its feet with his small but sharp teeth. The Kreth kicked out instinctively. Swift dodged and continued harassing the larger creature, moving too fast for it to land a solid hit. The Kreth's attention divided between Daniel and the annoying cub attacking its legs. Tor made a sound of pride. "Our child shows courage." "Your child is going to get himself killed," Daniel replied, but he had to admit Swift's distraction was helping. The Kreth kept spinning in circles, trying to deal with threats from multiple directions. Daniel activated his modified cattle prod and jabbed it against the Kreth's side. The electric shock made the creature jump and bellow. It turned toward Daniel with clear intent to crush him. He ran again, leading it further down the corridor. Behind them, Daniel heard the sealed door open. The tour guide was getting the children out while the Kreth was distracted. That was good. Now they just needed to contain the creature without killing it. The serpent chose that moment to drop from a ventilation shaft above them. The flying snake thing landed on the Kreth's back and bit down with fangs that dripped venom. The Kreth roared again and started thrashing, trying to dislodge the serpent. "This is getting complicated," Daniel muttered. The two creatures fought each other, temporarily forgetting about Daniel and the Vorash. The Kreth slammed itself against the walls, trying to scrape off the serpent. The serpent's wings beat frantically as it maintained its grip. "Should we help the Kreth?" Shira asked. "Help it?" Daniel stared at her. "The serpent's venom is lethal. The Kreth will die within minutes if we do not intervene." Daniel made a quick decision. The Kreth was dangerous but not actively malicious. It was just a scared animal in a strange place. The serpent, according to Dr. Halvik's description, was a calculated killer that hunted for sport. "Tor, can you grab the serpent without getting bitten?" "Yes, our scales are resistant to most venoms." "Do it. I'll keep the Kreth calm." Tor moved with impressive speed for his size. He reached up and grabbed the serpent behind its head, pulling it away from the Kreth. The flying snake writhed in his grip, trying to bite, but Tor's strength was overwhelming. He slammed the serpent against the floor hard enough to stun it, then wrapped his other hand around its body to immobilize the wings. The Kreth, free of its attacker, turned back toward Daniel. But something had changed. The creature moved slower now. The venom was already working through its system. "Easy," Daniel said softly, approaching with his hands visible and empty. "Easy now. Nobody's trying to hurt you." The Kreth's legs wobbled. It made a sound that was almost pitiful, not aggressive. The creature was dying, and it knew it. Daniel pulled out his communicator. "Command center, we need the medical team down here now. The Kreth has been poisoned. It needs anti-venom immediately." Dr. Halvik's voice came back. "We don't have anti-venom for serpent poison. There's no way to save it." The Kreth collapsed onto its side, breathing heavily. Its small black eyes found Daniel and held his gaze. In that moment, Daniel saw intelligence there. Fear. Confusion about why it was dying in this strange metal place so far from home. He walked over and knelt beside the creature's head. The Kreth didn't try to bite or attack. It just watched him with those dying eyes. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quietly. "This shouldn't have happened. You deserved better than this." The Kreth made a sound like a sigh. Its breathing slowed, then stopped. The intelligence faded from its eyes. Daniel stood up slowly. Around him, the Vorash family watched in silence. Swift approached and pressed against Daniel's leg, making soft, comforting sounds. "The human mourns the creature," Tor observed, "even though it tried to kill him." "It wasn't evil," Daniel said. "Just scared and out of its element. Someone brought it here, locked it up, then let it loose in a place where it didn't belong. That's not the Kreth's fault." Shira made a thoughtful sound. "You have compassion for predators. This is a very human trait. The medical team arrived with security forces. They took custody of the stunned Serpent, securing it in a reinforced container. Commander Lee appeared shortly after, surveying the scene. "The children are safe," she reported. "No casualties except the Kreth." Investigation teams found evidence in the xenobiology lab. Someone definitely sabotaged the containment systems deliberately. "Who?" Daniel asked. "We're still working on that, but we have some leads." Commander Lee looked at the dead Kreth, then at Daniel. "You did good work here. Saved a lot of lives." "One life would have been better," Daniel said, gesturing at the Kreth's body. Over the next week, station security uncovered the conspiracy. A group of traitors from several species had been working together to create incidents that would embarrass the Vorash and damage human-alien relations. They saw humans as competition, and the growing friendship between humans and Vorash as a threat to their economic interests. The conspirators were arrested and removed from the station, but their actions had consequences. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss what they called the human question. Should humans be allowed to expand further into galactic society? Were they too unpredictable, too dangerous? Daniel was called to testify at the council session. He stood in a massive chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. All of them watched him with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity. "You play with predators," one council member said. His species looked like walking plants. "You treat deadly creatures as companions. This behavior is incomprehensible to most of us. How can we trust beings who see no danger in things that would kill us?" Daniel thought carefully before responding. "We see danger. We're not stupid, but we also see beyond the danger. Every creature has reasons for what it does. Fear, hunger, territorial instinct. If you understand those reasons, you can work with them instead of against them." "That is a very optimistic view," another council member said. "Maybe, but it works. Humans have turned wolves into dogs, wildcats into pets, horses into partners. We've done it because we look for connection instead of just threat. We believe most creatures given the choice would rather cooperate than fight." Ambassador Tor stood from his seat. "The Vorash delegation wishes to speak. Daniel Reed has shown us perspectives we never considered. His methods have practical applications beyond simple curiosity. If other species could learn to read predator behavior as humans do, many lives could be saved. Many conflicts could be avoided." The debate continued for hours. Finally, the council reached a decision. Humans would not be restricted. Instead, a new program would be created. Interspecies relations specialists, trained primarily by humans, who could help other species understand and interact with dangerous creatures. Daniel was offered the position as head of the program. He accepted. 6 months later, Daniel supervised a team of humans working across multiple stations. They handled everything from escaped laboratory animals to first contact situations with newly discovered predator species. Other aliens were starting to join the program too, learning human methods. The Vorash family visited regularly. Swift, now fully grown, still got excited when he saw Daniel. The young Vorash had become an ambassador himself, helping his people understand cooperation instead of just competition. One day, a distress call came in from an unexplored sector. A survey ship had encountered an unknown species, massive predators that had destroyed 2 vessels. The survivors were requesting help, specifically asking for human specialists. Daniel looked at the message and smiled. He called his team together. "Looks like we've got a new friend to make," he said.